If you're a personal trainer, health coach, or nutritionist, and you've been posting your best workouts, nutrition tips, and mindset hacks, and no one's even seeing it, let alone DMing you or converting into customers and clients, then hang with me for the next few minutes and I'll walk you through a step-by-step process that me and my clients use to get customers and clients every single day on Instagram with less than 2,000 followers, without spam DMs, big launches, and living on the social media platform. Go ahead and dive in. What's up, coach? Thanks for joining me today. If you're new around here, I'm Beverly Simpson, a former district fitness manager, gone online professional. I've generated over 7 figures online, and I've helped hundreds of coaches do the same. Today, I'm walking you through the step-by-step protocol that me and my clients use to get customers and clients every single day on Instagram, even in a disrupted market with GLP-1s and the invention of AI. And I'll show you how to attract, connect, and convert people who have never heard of you before with your followers, even with less than 2,000 followers. Are you ready? Let's dive in. The truth that most coaches don't realize is that the moment you took on a client, you started running a business. And they don't teach you in schools and in certifications the best way to run a business. Because all businesses need traffic, leads, and sales. Plain and simple, whether you're running a brick and mortar in person or you're online. And so what we have to do is figure out the best way to take someone who's never heard of you before and turn them into a customer or a client. And so this is the process that we use that builds a pressure-free, permission-based sales system. This means no more spam DMing 100 people a day, no more hustling, begging for clients and feeling stressed about where you're gonna find that next client because no one's in the pipeline because you're at max capacity serving one-on-one clients, trading dollar per hour, okay? So this is what we're going to do. The first thing that we're going to do is look at that $1 million offer stack, which I actually showed you how to do in a previous video, which I will put a link around here to help you really cultivate that $1 million offer stack. Because once you're really clear on where you're taking people at the end of their customer journey, then we can go all the way back to the top and we can start looking at conversion content. This is where we will attract and connect with people that we've never heard of before. And the way that we're going to do it is with conversion content. So here is the difference between what conversion content looks like versus what most people's content do. Now, most coaches are out there being told that they need to build, know, like, and trust, that they need to just add a ton of value, and then people will become a customer or client. And I get it. I fully understand why people tell you to do this, because one, you cannot buy from the internet's best kept secrets. But let me ask you, how many PDFs and pieces of content that you have downloaded with the best of intentions to go back and get to it, but you just never do? That's number one. Then number two, can you point to something that you have in your house right now where you can't even name who the CEO is? Do you know what Apple's mission statement is? Chances are probably not. In fact, it's just like if you worked at a gym or a PT clinic and membership hands you a point of sale client, or someone walks in and says, my insurance referred you. Let me show you an example of what specifically it is that I mean. So here's one of my pieces that I love. This is like, listen, I'm playing around with some editing and I'm teaching my clients how to do it, and it's super fun, just for the side note. But this is an example of one of my educational how-tos, 3 tips to identify whether it's your offer or your messaging. Okay, so now this is only going to speak to people who already know what offer is and really have an inclination of what messaging is, which people are, but the problem is that it has no context. This is me and my educational heart. Me wanting to teach you that if you really dial in the offer to the right person at the right time, I'm telling you that's 80% of the work right there. But most people don't realize or think that it's their offer or think that their messaging is dialed in. But what I see with so many people out there is that they're trying to convince people that they have a bunny when in fact they think they have a duck. My organic bunny food said to people who think that they have a duck. And so what do? How do we turn our educational content into stuff that actually converts? Well, when you can layer in context of specific problem that your clients are in to get a specific outcome that they want, not what you want them to want and not what they need, but what they really want. Now, just don't get me twisted here when I say not what they need. You're going to communicate full transparency of what it is that they need, as long as it's wrapped in the context of what it is that they want to solve the problem that they know that they're in. We're not going to try and convince someone that broccoli is candy because we know that that's not true. But if you can show people how broccoli actually will taste good, that they could actually end up craving broccoli, and show them how that's possible, that's how you get out of the energy of clickbait and bait and switch. That's how you get out of the energy of trying to convince people. Because your people are not afraid of hard work. They're willing to put in work as long as it's the best way, as long as they can see that there's progress. And then when you layer in for a specific person, that is when you'll start to see that your DMs will flood. And it's not always visible engagement, by the way. So for example, these two posts right here are some of my highest converting pieces. I know this because they send me DMs and say, hey, I saw this post and I want to know more about how I can do the same thing. So just because you can't see it doesn't mean that it's not converting. And this is true for my clients. When my clients do the same thing happens. So you'll see here, we took Morgan's content, her amazing educational 4 phases of nutrition. She was doing the same thing. And then we started to layer in the conversion content components that spoke specifically to her champagne clients who had a specific problem, wanted a specific outcome, and she communicated her specific way for a specific person. And then you'll see that her engagement did increase, but so did the invisible customers and clients, which she shared here about how she had no other choice but to get support. In fact, this process works even if you are brand new to the online space and you have never posted content before, because it's never been easier than ever to get content in front of people who have a problem that have never heard of you before. Because when you're micro specific with the problem to the outcome, then the algorithms have no choice but to put that content in front of the people who want it. In fact, one of my clients, Jay, he's been trying to get his business off the ground and he spent 20 grand and still struggled. We started layering in this conversion content and he finally saw evidence and proof that the conversion hand raisers that we put together actually work. Okay. So then we take the conversion content. Now, I like to show my clients how to create 3 core concepts. So think about like 3 core struggles that people have for the main problems. And we turn this into 3 to 15 conversion concepts. And what's great about this is it doesn't take that much time. And then these become your core message for your business. And this can literally turn into hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of content. I know that sounds too good to be true, but I promise you it is really, once you change just a couple of angles, it becomes an infinite amount of content. But we take 3 to 15 conversion content pieces and we invite people into a sales mechanism. And you want this sales mechanism to be high value. And people get this messed up where they think that the sales mechanism isn't valuable. But remember, most people are operating from mistakes and misconceptions. knowing what to do is not enough of a reason to cause transformation. Otherwise, we'd all be in our best health, living our best life to date. And the fact that you want to do what it is that you want to do means that there's someone else out there who's looking for the problem that you solve. So when you invite them to a high value conversation, it's either going to be DM, it's either going to be call, and sometimes it can be done over email, but I'll tell you that DM and call are the fastest ways to have a transformation high value call, and then you invite them to the offer. And do that. Honestly, this process right here, you can do on a repeat. In fact, in my world, this is phase 1 and phase 2 of building a business. And I like to build business in 4 phases. So phase 1, you design it with the end in mind. Then phase 2, you deliver it. Now here's the thing that people ask me all the time, because most people will tell you, oh, it has to be organic content only. Well, I like to layer in organic and paid traffic. And so we use a low budget of $2 to $5 a day, especially if you're new. Because sure, you can rely on algorithms and other people's platforms, but here's what I've seen inside of social media specifically, is that what happens is social media goes through a customer journey themselves, where it looks like this. We put it into 3 sections, where if the platform is new, people are excited about it, versus if the platform is seasoned, I'll call it. And then we'll call this interest fatigue. So what happens on interest fatigue on this, so from here to here is new to seasoned, the platform specifically. And then from here, we'll call this interest fatigue for your clients. So what that means is that when a platform is new, what ends up happening is that the barrier of entry to the platform is very low. So what that looks like when it's very low means that there is a lot of interest, so high interest, but low content. There's not a lot of content. Okay? So what happens when a platform is new and there's low interest is that there's lots of opportunities for people to be seen. Okay? So you want to think about this as high interest, right? So it's high interest but low content. So this is like a sweet spot. We saw this happen when TikTok first came on scene. Whenever there's a new platform, the interest to go to the platform is typically high and there's not a lot of content. Okay, but then when a platform is seasoned, then you start to see that the interest to be on the platform is lower. And now when I say lower, I mean that the ability to get seen is lower, but the amount of content is high. So don't get me wrong, this doesn't mean that it's bad. It doesn't mean that you can't be on the platform. Why? Because there are a lot of people on the platform. But if you're new and no one's ever heard of you before, it can be so much harder to get seen. So your content has to be more sophisticated. It has to be more on point. And that is great. Don't get me wrong. If you're hanging out here with me, then I know you're not afraid of hard work. But hard work, when it feels like there's little to no reward, that can be very difficult to stay consistent and to stay motivating. So it's going to require you to be committed and stay disciplined and get better faster. But sometimes you're not going to have the stamina without revenue to get into your world, which is why we use ads. And it doesn't have to be high budget ads, it can be low budget ads. In fact, even if you look at Alex Hormozi as an example, he started his organic omnipresence after he had already made millions of dollars in his business. In fact, if you read one of his first books, The Gym Launch, he tells you exactly how he used ads. He used ads to generate revenue and then built omnipresence. And this is why. And then you have this beautiful sweet spot in the middle where it's both equal. where there's high interest to be on the platform, and there's not a lot of people entering the market space. But this magical middle goes away pretty quickly. And it's not that it's a bad thing. It's just in order for you to get the reps that are required to stand apart, you're going to need consistency. You're going to need discipline, flexible discipline, I like to call it. And you're going to need the reps. But in order to maintain longevity, you're going to need revenue. So that's why we use ads, low budget ads. And then once you get this cooking, you validate your offer, you start generating revenue. In fact, our clients have seen revenue as soon as 72 hours. Then we go into phase 3, where we set up the system to scale, and I'll share with you all about the breakdown of how we do that in the next video. Thanks for hanging out with me today. And if you're a go-getter and you already know that you want the fastest, best way to start and scale a profitable business in the online space as a health and wellness professional, I've left in the show notes all the links to help you get started, and I'll catch you in the next video.